Well, and I'll say welcome everyone to the January 2025 meeting of the District 6710 International Service Committee. It's good to have you all here. I think this is going to be a very interesting, fun meeting. And I'd like to remind everybody, as I've started doing this year, of the Rotary's International Vision Statement. Together, we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves. And I think our program today will really bring that forward, as we will hear from Brian Welch, an agriculture teacher at North Hopkins High School out in a little north of Madisonville. And he was working with Denise Sears of SOS Health and Hope here in Louisville, and Harry Hoch.
Here.
From Liberia, who is now spending a lot of time in Louisville and is very active, has been in Louisville for about 17 years, you told me, I think.
Yes, that's correct.
That's great. Welcome. I can see we've got our whole district governor line, starting with last year's Governor Tom Reed of Bardstown, Dale Leatherman, Dorsey Ridley, and Cheryl Smith of Frankfurt, all here and ready to go. And Chandra Fowler is also representing SOS. Good to see her. We've got a good crew of folks here. Welcome. Glad to have you. The first requirement on our agenda is to accept the minutes of our December meeting, which normally is a pretty routine task. Does anybody have any comments or suggestions on the minutes? Did anybody read them? Tom Reed read them and said he's okay with it, I think.
I'm okay with them.
If there are no objections, we will assume the minutes are approved as read. And we'll be ready to go and start our program. I am, and let me introduce Brian Welch, again, the agriculture teacher at North Hopkins High School out in Hopkins County, just north of where I grew up in Hopkinsville. We're really interested to learn how you got started on this connection and international activity, Brian, and what you have your students doing.
Absolutely. Well, first off, I appreciate you all letting us come on. There's a lot of familiar faces I see with the partnership, and I have to give kudos to everybody that's on the call that was part of that, because this is not a just solely Brian Welch thing. It's not just even a North Hopkins thing. It took a lot. And so we're very proud of the work that's happened, and we're excited to kind of share the story and see maybe how Rotary Club can get to be part of that. So I am an agriculture teacher, and what that means is that we typically teach, the basics of what needs are in everybody's life. So where does our food come from? What are skills that are necessary to do that? It does extend beyond just farming. It also deals a lot with sorry, let me share my screen. It deals a lot with construction, which is what I do a lot of. And so when I kind of started teaching, I started a construction kind of pathway within the school at Madisonville North, and I'm always looking for ways to do community service. It's led me to a group called Harbor Freight Tools for Schools, and a buddy now of mine in Alabama does a lot of international work with Honduras, where he actually makes prosthetic legs within his engineering classes and send those over to Honduras itself. So whenever talking with him, he kind of had this philosophy that in education, we're really good about telling students they can change the world, but then that conversation typically stops there, and they don't really show how you can do that or ways to do that. So it kind of came with this challenge of how can we really impact the world in general. With the building program that we have, we wanted to be able to convert a shipping container into something meaningful that could hopefully have that global impact. We've worked with SOS in the past. They have actually donated medical supplies to our veterinary science classes so that our students can get a lot more of that hands-on skill, whether it be using sutures or giving injections. And so whenever we had the goal of doing a global project, I had reached out to them to see if they would be interested in partnering to see if we converted a shipping container into a medical clinic. Could it find a home somewhere? And so they did a lot of that legwork to see, and that's when Harry came in, and we were able to really nail down Liberia specifically. The picture on the screen right now shows the final product of what we were able to make. This is it still at North Hopkins High School back in the spring. As you can see, it's got 3 sinks. It's got a back area that's divided by just a curtain in the front area, and then just the one main entrance, which is what the shipping container actually has. As we went through the project, it kind of got separated into 3 main chunks. The first chunk was just the building portion, which is what we took over at Madisonville North. In total, we have about 1,000 students at our school. And with this project, one big goal, we called it a freight box challenge. Freight box because we're dealing with the freight shipping container. And then Harbor Freight Tools for Schools is a large sponsor of our portion of the build. Our challenge was to get as many students involved as possible. It gives them introduction to trades, which is a really important piece of education in my eyes. And then it also allows them to bridge that gap of not just telling them they can change the world, but allowing them to have a tangible moment when they can actually do it. Some of that involves students just coming down during class. And so I might partner with this teacher in an English class, and they gave me 1 hour. And so those students worked with my construction students to build on it that day. Some of it was through clubs that would come down during certain allocated times. But in total, we had 427 of our 1,000 students come out and help, which well extended beyond just our program. My classes themselves in the spring, I think I had maybe 100, 150 students. And so this was a huge outreach for us as well to kind of give them that moment. With this, you can see some of the pictures. So our students did the design process. We used a picture as reference. We talked to Terry to see if this would kind of fit. Of course, with the shipping container, we had a very limited space. But the students there who are using the tape measure, you can see they are the ones that actually helped design it to see how the studs needed to lay out on the inside, how the electrical needed to do. 2 of the boys that are in that picture were actually in an electrical program at our community college. So they were able to apply some of that skill set as well to the specific container. The 2 kids in the top corner who are putting in a window, they are from a random science class that came down. The boys in the left top corner, they are from a health science class that came down. And in the bottom left, being an ag teacher, we're part of what's called the FFA. Was the Future Farmers of America a long time ago. Now it's just the National FFA. And so we had some different events through our FFA program that helped sponsor. And that's where they were building some walls and things of that nature. After the build part, we did the stocking of the container, which is where SOS really came into play. And I apologize, Harry, if I misspelled Trina. But they also help with the medical pieces there. They will be able to speak a lot more as far as how that partnership works and how they're able to get those donations. But they do a lot of global work in general. And so a lot of that hiccup on a high school end, like I can get the building built, but I have 0 connections to international relations. And that's where SOS really came in handy and where Harry really came in handy to make all this work. They were able to get all of the supplies for us based on the recommendations that Harry said they needed. And they were also able to get all the medicines that went over as well. So once it was built, we set a date for them to come down from Louisville to Madisonville. And then we stocked the container, our students getting that opportunity, as you can see from some of the pictures here, so that we could send it on its way. As far as the delivery component, Harry had a great connection with UPS. And so these are some pictures of it actually there. Harry sent us this a few weeks ago, I guess at this point, about a month or so ago, sometime in early December. And so you can see it's on its final pad in Liberia. You can see the grand opening that they had of it. To my understanding, and again, Harry can give emphasis on this, it's gone from being built at our school, stocked by SOS, and then now is sitting at its final destination and waiting for electrical hookup and some water hookup so that it can fully be functional, but they've been able to unload the things they need. It can still technically use the structure itself. They're just kind of waiting for that final piece to make it a fully fledged building for it. Project-wise, just to kind of give some insights on the behind the scenes. I'm not sure how much of this is needed, and then I can turn it over to SOS and Harry to talk about any other pieces that I may have left out. The biggest benefit of the container itself and what we were able to really push to our students in making that global change was medical accessibility, which is what SOS is all about. This container can do just the routine vaccinations and first aid, but then in the evolution of it, even emergency deliveries. And so instead of having to travel, I think they said 8 miles by just walking or getting on the back of a motorcycle. Whenever you have extreme delivery issues, this clinic is now equipped because of the equipment that SOS has provided to be able to handle those deliveries on site in the kind of the remote area versus the main hospital, which might be far away. Funding breakdown, it took us for this last build, probably about $13,000 on the build portion. That does not include any medical supplies. That does not include the shipping costs. It does not include the setup costs in Liberia. But that was still missing some pieces. We were really hopeful to get a generator. We were not able to find one to go with the container. And so that's one kind of hiccup. It's got a spot to plug in one, but just doesn't have the generator itself. As you can see, any type of medical system, it doesn't have a ton of space for storage, which I think that Harry has said there's going to be storage options there. But as far as in the clinic itself, like our goal was to have you walk in and it be like a fully equipped medical room. There wasn't a ton of ability for us to get that just because of the cost. And then ideally some better air circulation. We put in a couple fans, but I'm sure with the temperature of Liberia, and especially if it doesn't have power all the time, that's kind of some things for us to tweak on our end. Breakdown of costs, we got a $10,000 grant from Harbor Freight Tools for Schools, an additional small grant through National FFA, and then our program covered a lot of the other costs that we weren't able to get donated. But the more important part too, as well, is think about the student impact. Like I said, we always talk about having students change the world. We don't often give them the moment to be able to do that, and we kind of just let that be a cliche in education. And so this lets students put that into practice. In the top picture, you can see that's where all the students, whenever they would volunteer, they would actually sign this metal sign that we had. And so it's kind of a commemorative piece of it, but just looking at all the signatures, if you can see that picture, there were a lot of hands on deck to make this possible. And some kids may have just come to paint a cabinet. Some kids maybe came to actually frame up a wall. But no matter what step they took, that's a really kind of tangible piece for them to say that they truly changed the world. The bottom left corner is a girl in an FFA jacket. She was our president last year. A lot of what we do is student led. And so she was one that actually applied for the grant to get the money in general. And so we had a lot of moments like that. Our students would go out and actually ask for the donations. It relieves a little bit on our plates as teachers, but then also gives them that good piece. She can now put on a resume that she's earned X amount of dollars to now go to some sort of philanthropy and now say that it's a global impact. It's a huge, huge thing for us. And so our students also in the other corner, you can see one piece to the puzzle was not me having to teach 1,000 other students, but letting my students become the teachers. And so the kid who is showing the other student how to use a tape measure, he was one of our seniors in the class last year, showing a freshman who was coming in from his class how to use a tape measure, how to actually mark the wood so that we can cut it with the circular saw. And so there was a really big impact there too, as students were able to take that ownership, which otherwise would have not been as successful to truly give them the genuine moment here. We do have, for my final kind of piece to add to this, we have our next steps in line. As of right now, we do have the initial Harbor Freight grant again. So we were able to get $10,000 for the build portion itself. The container has been ordered and now we're just kind of waiting. It's actually going to come out of Louisville this time instead of Nashville. There's just paperwork on a school end for us to get situated and then get the survey so we can go overseas. The hopes are this time around as well, we can add some more cultural connections within the school. So even if your class can't come down and build with us, like we're working with our chemistry teacher to make Liberian milk candy. And so her classes will actually research the chemical process of what happens when you make it. And then they'll get that connection piece of this is a candy that's enjoyed all the way across the ocean. Our English classes will learn how to write grants. And so they may not physically write one if we don't have one available for them to write, but they'll kind of see what that process is. And that can translate to a lot of good things. In a grant, you have to, talk about the positives. You have to be very tangible with what you're talking about or very specific in your writing. So that's a good skill for them to have. We hope to also make a model for others. We're working with a local engineering firm to have the blueprint once it's officially established and once we talk to Harry about what it needs. There will be a blueprint that gets created that other people can utilize as a very quick, hey, if you have this kind of container, this is what you can place in it, and this will be what you have. This is how many studs you need to put in. This is where you need to put those studs. We're also hopeful to create a website, just a quick Google source there to where if other teachers wanted to implement lessons, they could just go to a tab here's this lesson. One lesson that's already on there is about foods. So foods that are in Liberia, what are common street foods and what are those compared to as common like street foods here in America? And then lastly, we want to kind of extend on our end the impacts past medical. And so when Harry sent me those pictures and I saw those kids there, I was like, dang it, that was such a missed opportunity on my end. Not to, you know, send those resources maybe on an educational purpose. So maybe it's books or it's some type of school supply.
Oh, wow.
So go. And then also even things like toys. And so if you have a bunch of students there, you have a bunch of kids, when they open it and they just see a bunch of like medical stuff, they're not as excited. But maybe again, give them some sort of, you know, a toy drive through the high school or through different areas, maybe some bikes that go over there, some basketballs and things of that nature. So the plan for this next one, I believe, is to still go to Liberia. And then also because of the impact of the survey, I think our goal is to get it sent out by December. Depending on when we get that actual container, it might get pushed back a month or two as far as our available window. But hopefully within this year, get it built and stocked and shipped over.
That's pretty exciting, Brian. That's really great. Yeah. Did your students learn anything about Liberia in the process here?
Absolutely. So one piece to that is we had a quick slideshow that every student had to go through before they could come and work with us. If you were an English teacher bringing your class to work with me, I would give that to you ahead of time. We learned a little bit about history as far as the Civil War that had just gone on. We had talked about a bit of the resource scarcity that they have in general there. And then also just kind of geographically where they're at. And so some of our students may not be able to identify that on a map. And so going through the process, this is where it's at. We talked about the history of how it related to the America. As far as, you know, why does the flag look very similar to ours and how does that connection go historically there? And then, you know, like I said, the quick lessons that we also do kind of scattered throughout, like what kind of foods they ate over there. And oh my gosh, that actually looks like a food that I would really want to try out. I might want to try to make it here or vice versa. Maybe it's like, oh, that's a food I would have never thought of. And, you know, from an ag focus, we talk about why they eat certain things and it's based on the resources that you have in your area, such as, you know, America's big on corn because we grow corn in every state. And so kind of those pieces as well integrated.
Okay. Super. Any questions for Brian?
Hey, Brian, what size container was that one that you did? You may have said it, but I was trying to listen fast.
Sure, yeah, and I talk fast, so I apologize if
I like that.
pieces. We had a 40-foot high cube container, so it's a little bit taller than your standard container. I think it's like 9.5 foot tall on the outside. On the inside, you had about 36 feet long by the time we framed it out and whatnot, and then it was over 8 feet tall on the inside.
Thanks. Oh,
And you
and
did
did
set
that
it
include
up?
the shipping? Did that include the shipping cost? For
No,
the
I'll discuss the shipping costs when
Okay.
I speak.
great.
I think that's a good cue for you, Denise. I think
Okay.
you're ready to go.
I'm going to be brief because I have to tell you this project would not have happened without Shanda Fowler, our education manager. You know, she had a relationship with the school. Brian reached out to her with this amazing idea. She came to me because this is very much in keeping with our education program. A lot of it is healthcare workforce development, but a lot of it with particularly high school students is also global citizenship. That's really Shanda's background. So we loved the concept. We knew that Brian had a great idea. What size container, like we ship containers all the time. So we kind of knew, that you do need the high cube and, the 40 foot is more cost effective. Then it got to like, well, where's it going to go? Right. So we have a vast roster of international partners. And I thought of Harry because knowing the work that he's doing in Liberia and how rural it is, having a self-contained health clinic would have tremendous benefits compared to maybe some of the more urban areas that we're working in. Harry, working for UPS, we instantly talked and we're like, you know what, we're going to get UPS to cover the cost of the shipping. Now, typically that saved the project between $5,000 and $6,000 just to go from Kentucky to Portsmouth. But I'm going to hand it off to Shanda because it was her. I mean, she's the one who got the call from Brian, and she was, the AA battery that, just kept going from our side because, we had the global connections and the medical connections to help make this happen. Shanda, take it away.
Hi. Okay. Hi, I'm Chanda. I misspelled my own name on the thing. I'm like, there's not an R in my name. My mother would be furious with me, but she's not here, so we won't tell. And I'm from Western Kentucky originally. So first of all, when I talked to Brian, I'm like, yay, it feels like home. I'm from Muhlenberg County, right next door to Hopkins County. So that was really cool too. Every time I talked to him and I heard the accent, I'm like, you sound like everybody I grew up with. So it was great. We were really excited about, I mean, Brian is just the most wildly competent person. Like anything that ever came up, I'm like, oh my gosh, what do we do about this? He's like, that's okay, we'll figure it out. Any questions we had that, we were able to kind of work together and get answered. We have had interest from JCPS has reached out about doing something similar. We had a school in Colorado, I believe, a district who reached out to us. So this is something we definitely would like to replicate if we can. Of course, funding and getting the containers and then the shipping is an issue. But it was just so nice. We were just kind of, I kept thinking of, like with Tinker Toys, we were kind of like the little round one kind of in the middle, and then all the spokes that go out, that connect all the different pieces. It was so much fun to see this come together. Some things that I would like to work on the next time we do this. This time when we decided how to supply the clinic, we sat down with Harry and Trina, the organization, and one of our head volunteers there at SOS, who was, a nurse for years and years and years, and the dean of the nursing program at Bellarmine University. And we kind of decided like, okay, what would you need, right? So like when we're going to supply this thing, like what kinds of do you need, and we tried to ask questions like if there are things that are available there, we don't need to ship them because we had very limited shipping space. That was something I learned because when I first thought about this, I just pictured us like shoving it full of boxes, right? As much stuff as we could pack in there, in the cabinets, in boxes, wherever, and then shipping it. And then they were like, well, yeah, but where are we going to put it when we get there if there's until like there's a storage kind of facility. You can't just take these boxes out of the clinic and then sit them on the ground so then the people can come in, right? So that was, just little things like that kind of came up that we just kind of had to work out as it came. Next time, I think it would be great if the students maybe could be kind of involved in helping either making some of those decisions about, okay, if you're going to have this kind of a clinic, you're going to want X amount of supplies for vaccinations, you'll need X amount, that kind of thing. I think that might be a good way to partner maybe with some of the health science classes as well, and get them involved in kind of a different aspect and also kind of give them an international or kind of a different perspective on medical supplies and equipment and medical care and kind of who needs what and how you actually go about providing that in a practical way. So that's another thing I think would be good to kind of expand and focus on. Yeah, this was just so exciting, and it was kind of like a long, slow process, and then all of a sudden it came together very quickly at the end to kind of get it shipped. There was some construction going on there at the high school, so we had some help with getting with the see, this is not my area of expertise, but what is it called, Brian? The thing
Crane.
the crane. Okay, I do know that word. Yeah, sorry. The crane, like to get it actually loaded off of, and so this was just like a really kind of interesting, it was fascinating. And the blueprints are fantastic. And, we want to be able to replicate this. Medical clinics or kind of whatever people need. I think this is such a great thing for kids to work on. The philosophy we kind of use at SOS is we think of with our international, when we're trying to teach kids about global citizenship, we think about windows and mirrors, right? So the mirror is seeing yourself reflected in it. So what do we have in common with these people? Like how instead of just saying those people over there, what do we have in common? How are we alike? What are things that we can all relate to? And then the window, right, is seeing, okay, but this is how things are different, right? Like, these are the different foods they eat, or, you have to maybe walk 8 miles to a hospital, which is not the case for, a lot of people here in the United States. So we kind of use that approach to kind of I think it just gives the kids a broader and deeper understanding of conditions in other parts of the world, of how the impact that small things here can have across the ocean. It also kind of helps us think about, what are things we could do even closer to home that could help facilitate some of these projects and actions and things we do in the future. So I don't know if anybody has any questions, but I was so excited to be part of it, and I'm really excited about to do the next one because I feel like we learned a lot. And so we'll know from the beginning, no, we can't just shove it full of boxes and then, not think about where the patients and things will go while we're looking for storage. And I hope we can work with maybe some of these other schools too. I know in the case of JCPS, they want to use maybe multiple schools working together, which would be a cool thing to do. It helps kids get to know each other from different parts of town and different, experiences and backgrounds. And then also, like the school in Colorado and so it's an opportunity to do just some great things that will truly help people, that are really, truly impactful.
Shonda, I have a question.
Yeah.
First of all, the trailers, I've bought a couple of these used trailers and mine don't look anything like that. So you're doing a great job of fixing those up. So that looks really nice.
Can I just add something? Yeah. So
Yeah.
in order for it to stay in country, it has to meet, no matter what the country, this is a shipping company requirement. It has to meet certain requirements, which means they tend to be on a little bit better condition than maybe the average container.
Okay.
Yeah, they're
That
set
was nice.
certifications for what are called seaworthy. So, to actually be able to ship it. So that's why you can't like cut a big hole in the side and put, like a window or put a door right in the middle or that kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's helpful. And that relates to my question. When they get there, will you be like installing air conditioning and electricity or
That would probably be more of a question for Harry.
I was just gonna say that's Harry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not.
okay.
I'm not sure. I do know we wish we'd gotten a generator. I'd reached out to a person I know who works for GE, but that it just didn't happen this time. But maybe we'll see if it's a possibility for in the future. So we could just send a generator with it.
All right. Very, very good. And that sounds like good work.
It was really exciting.
Yeah.
It seems to be pretty clear that part of the learning is learning how to deal with various regulations from the shipping industry, from governments on both continents. There's an awful lot of simply intellectual work and learning about how complicated some of our systems are in order to be able to do good around the world.
Yeah.
Is that a fair summary?
Yes, because they also had to understand that everything that went into the container had to be documented for customs. So we couldn't just say, medical cart and a box of, dressings. It's like, it all has to be, very finely documented, 1,000 4x4s. I mean, that's how technical and detailed the list has to be, to comply with customs in most countries.
Yeah, that was really interesting because we had to figure out how to list like the wiring, and components and things that were built into it, so they weren't like being shipped in a box, but obviously they were being shipped. And how would that, be part of the structure, or is that considered, are those considered other materials? And so those were a lot of the kind of like little technical questions we had to start getting answered kind of as, things started to wrap up and we got ready to actually talk about, shipping it. So we've learned a lot. So this is like container 1.0, and then we'll be able to take that and replicate it hopefully and and this is amazing, but just do better and better every time.
Brian, how did your students react when they were confronted with all of this red tape?
So we were very fortunate not to have to deal with much of that red tape. I think that's where Harry and SOS really came in. We had talked a little bit about some of the legalities of it. Like whenever we use a lot of screws in this case instead of just nails like normal. I was like, if you puncture a hole in this shipping container, I just need you to know this is now no longer going to go overseas and you have wasted this entire project. So it puts a lot of emphasis on them and the students just to know that they have to really care about the project. We do a lot of other types of things. So like we're right now building a tiny house, and with a tiny house, it has to go through residential code regulations. And so they know a little bit about, something matters and it matters for a reason. You don't want somebody's house to burn down. You don't want this or that to occur. So they know a little bit of that. But as far as the red tape, that would have to be something for them to learn for the future, or for Harry to kind of give some insights to if ever necessary.
What is the need for this type of clinic? Is it sort of infinite? I mean, do we have a way of determining in other countries, other places? I'm just wondering how much replication is in the future for this sort of project.
Harry, would you have any insights on that?
Oh, I didn't quite get his your question. Could you just
Yes, my question is, if you can hear me, is how much, how often can this be replicated? Is there, from a standpoint of need, is there an infinite need for these types of things? And are there many countries, in addition to Liberia, that have been identified as potential sites?
absolutely? I can speak about Liberia firstly because the health care provision in Liberia is centered around the city and maybe 45 to 50 miles from the city. The rest of the country is isolated because of bad road conditions. So that provides the need for that. So it can be replicated in so many different parts of Liberia. Now, in Liberia, the closest country is Sierra Leone. The same situation is in Sierra Leone and another bordering to the North Guinea, because those countries all experience civil war and they are just very slow in terms of growth and development. So the need is just infinite in those regions.
Thank you.
Not only for medical materials and clinics and knowledge, but also just basic infrastructure. How
Correct.
far, what are the challenges in getting electrical service to the rural area where this current container is located?
I would assume that's my cue.
I'm sorry?
I say that is an assumption. That's my cue to start.
Yes, that's your cue.
Thank you. All right. And thanks to everyone for this opportunity. It's a learning curve for me and as well as so many others here because the needs are out there and the effort to address those needs are just so much. So let me just begin by providing my, let me share my, let me start over. Let's see if I can share my screen. Right. Can you see my screen?
Got it.
Yes.
Hold on. I think I got, hold on. Let me see what I can reshare, please. Entire. Okay. All right.
That looks like a road that I would be very happy to avoid.
Yeah, that's what I'm
For
trying.
sure.
For some reason, let me see. There's some issue this morning, but I think I'm making some effort to see what I can avoid that.
I don't think even walking in that road would be easy.
Let me see what I can do. Do this one. I'm trying to. Can you see now?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay, better. Thanks everyone. And so just to begin with, we talk about the rural area. Now you can see the truck, right? Behind the truck is just probably maybe the better of maybe 20% of the road. The rest is worse. Some of the ditches there, as tall, I'm about 6'2". I can stay in the hole and you won't see me. I have bad road. And behind there are villages. Some of the villages contain 1,000 to 2,000 residents. that are completely cut off from the rest of the city or the country. So that's where Trina comes in. So Trina is the Trumbull National Association. Trumbull is a group in Liberia that is located in the southeast of Liberia. They came together and said, look, after the Civil War, there is a need to provide some help to our people. And so Trina was established in 2014. Our mission is to develop individuals and communities into a beacon of economic growth and development, education and technological advancement, and an improved health sector is our goal. So we cover more the economic part and the educational part of Trina. Our program, so how do we impact a particular community? Well, if you look at it from a holistic standpoint, you might need education, you need agriculture, education, and empowerment. So those four became the pillars of Trina. Now, what resources can we tap into, or partnership can we collaborate with to have this impact? So our strategic partners include SOS, the CMMB, UPS, and the Ministry of Health. SOS have been our partner, a long-standing partner for over 13 years. SOS provide all the medical equipment and supplies that go to these various remote towns and villages that the government of Liberia cannot reach because of economic situation. The CMMB provides the medicines, all of the medicines we need. CMMB provides that. Then when it comes to how do we get this container to Liberia, UPS comes in. And I've worked with UPS for about 16 years. UPS drive the transportation component of each project that goes to Liberia. Now, when the container gets to Liberia, there are financial responsibilities, including the duty-free. That's where the Liberian government comes in, and the Ministry of Health, because we have an obligation when we collect these material, these supplies. They don't have to be stuck in the port because of funding. They don't have to be stuck or redistributed to different organizations because we don't have the means. The Ministry of Health provides to Trina a permanent duty-free that has been in existence for about 8 years. So whenever a container goes to Liberia, we don't have to pay duty-free to the Liberian government, even though there are other costs that we take on. But with the government, we have a duty-free privilege. So our impact, since 2014, the medicine and medical equipment that have gone to Liberia are worth over $7 million. And that's from XOS, CMMB, and other organizations that see the need to help Liberians who are struggling. So we have partnered with 17 health facilities in 11 counties. Liberia has about 16 counties. Liberia is about the size of the state of Kentucky, exactly the state of Kentucky. About 6 million, we just reached 6 million in 2024. So small country. Over the years, 200,000 treatment delivered to children under 5 years who suffer from diarrhea and acute respiratory infection. That's just the children. And then for the maternal mortality rate dropped since 2016 to 2023 from 742 to 652 per 100,000 live birth since our collaboration. And this is an impact that includes other organizations that are doing what Trina is doing as well with the Ministry of Health. In addition to our impact, in 2019, Liberia built its first veteran hospital. It's called the 14 Military Hospital that has not been in existence in Liberia. And Liberia is about 173 years now, independence. So that was the first military hospital was built in Liberia. Interestingly, the container that was shipped, thanks to SOS in 2019 before the COVID. It got in Liberia just in time when the COVID hit the rest of the world, Liberia not being out of that. We have PPE supply, delivery bread. So like screener delivered the first delivery and examination bed in the hospital during the period of COVID. And then below that is the Ellen Johnson Sally Dialysis Center, a country of about size of 6 million people. There is no dialysis center in that country. It was just built recently. And Trina is supplying that dialysis center with equipment and consumables just to drop down the costs in that country. So that's just some of the equipment that were provided to the dialysis center. In order to have a greater impact, we came together and said, well, we can get a statistic from the Ministry of Health that maybe this county needs help, that community needs help. Well, how do we get to those communities? So Trina developed what you call an end-to-end partnership. So we identify organizations that are in the United States and in Liberia who are in that are in that the specific community. We partner with them. They know the people, they know the community, they know the terrain. So they can tell us a real-time information regarding that community. So we have to partner with these different organizations to make sure we have much greater impact. As you can see, this is our end-to-end organization impact. So overall, this is not measuring the continuum project, but overall, due to collaboration of peer organization, Trina and the Ministry of Health, since 2016, the Ministry of Health launched what you call the National Community Health Program. Before them, right after the Civil War and in 2003 up to 2016, the approach was we need volunteers to provide help. We need volunteers to deliver services. And once people are volunteering, of course, they may or may not put in all of their effort. So because of that, it has continued to impact the healthcare sector of Liberia. So the initiative was, okay, how about we pay professionalized community health workers to deliver primary care in rural and remote areas? That initiative began. And because of that, the maternal mortality rate dropped significantly, and there's increase in referral to health facilities. So if a community has a clinic and a case is brought and cannot be addressed, that can be referred to bigger hospitals that are probably another 20 miles from that clinic. And we'll talk about the transportation aspect of that. So also the rapid response to outbreak across the 16 county was addressed. Robust healthcare training program. And 45% of healthcare workers diagnose and treat malaria cases in children under age 5 in rural areas. Over the years, we got some recognition for the services provided to Liberia. The JMKC UPS Committee Service Award was provided to Trina, and SOS Health and Hope Hero Award. Thanks, Danny, for recognition, and also the Humanitarian Service Award from UNIBOA, the Daily Point of Light Award, the George H.W. Bush Senior Inspiration Award that was just given to us in 2023. And in 2023, UPS, of all the organizations that partner with UPS, there are 2 organizations that received the Legacy Award, and Trina was one of the organizations. And let's talk about the project. So I will ask, the Rotary Continuum Clinic Project. So Brian, Denise, and Charlie, they elaborated on how the project was initiated and the impact it had from the United States to Liberia. So we partner and deliver the students, first student-built container clinic to Liberia. So the students of the Madisonville North Hawkins High School took on this project, which was remarkable. I mean, when we went to stuff the container with the medical supplies, I just could not believe the number of students who were out there in the hot sun working to give services to other children across the globe. As you can see, the pictures on the side is when the container arrived in Liberia. It was the opening ceremony. And then this is the actual container sitting in the community where services will be provided to the people. And at the bottom is Joyce, who is our health coordinator in Liberia, having the first community meeting to introduce the container and then explain the need and impact it's going to have in the community. It's a community that has over 40,000 Cashman residents in that area. And this container is going to provide a safe space for expectant mothers to be cared for. In this community, where the container is currently located, there are villagers and people who are walking 5 to 10 miles one way just to get medical treatment. And most of the time when they finally make it to the clinic, sometimes it's late at night and the clinic doesn't have electricity. Or sometimes there's no medication. Maybe the doctor or the medical staff probably go on the farm to fetch some food. So those are the challenges people have in that part of Liberia. So continue going to make a big impact. So medication will be free of charge because SOS is providing the SOS and CMMB is providing the equipment and the medicine. But medical services will be affordable. Currently, the container, as you can see, is sitting right there. There is no shade. So we figure out when people come, instead of just standing in the sun, there is a need to build an annex to serve as a waiting room. And that is under construction. And included in that waiting room will be a storage for other medical equipment and medicine that will be going. And our expected completion date is March 2025. Now, the impact of the clinic. So trained workforce will be at the front line of this clinic, including medical staff that will be provided by the Ministry of Health and other organizations. So we are projected about a 10% reduction in high maternal mortality rate in 3 years. This is a statistic done with the Ministry of Health to complete the projection. Treatment of children 5 years and under with diarrhea, I thought about that, will be addressed. Now, the picture on the right are students in the community. The community has about 4, we would say, elementary school. The students came in to help open the container and rearrange those equipment and medicine in the school. They were very excited, Brian, when they saw that, because they thought about, well, I'm not going to walk another 5 miles. Now I have a clinic right in my community. So our partnership with Rotary, what do we actually need? How can Rotary help to make the dreams of trainer, SOS, the students in the United States come true? Because there are some challenges we have. The container is laid out, the electrical component is all laid out. One of our partners asked, how will electricity be supplied in a clinic? Of course, in that part of the Liberia, there is no electricity. So people rely on generator and solar panel if they can afford. So we will expect, our expectation in our partnership from Rotary is to provide or sponsor staff training, solar panel for electricity to the clinic, assist with staff salary, because on a voluntary basis, you may not get people to be available to provide the assistance and the services that our sick mothers and fathers and children will need. So we will need to be able to compensate them, to keep them, to retain them at the hospital or the clinic. Furnish the clinic with furnitures and supplies, construct hand pumps and reservoir to supply clean water. We need that. That's very significant because in part of that village, people are still getting drinking water from the creek. So they do their laundry from the creek. They get water to drink from the creek. So it's not helping the effort. So we will need a hand pump to help that and reservoir to provide water to the clinic and construct toilets. Hate to mention, but people also use the part of the town to use in an open place to use the toilet. Well, then that, and thank you. And if you have any question, I'll be available.
One question I would have is, again, we're looking at a Rotary partnership, hopefully. And how does that fit into a global grant, maybe?
Well, there are several issues that we would need to work on. Rotary grants, global grants, do not cover construction of facilities in which people live, work, or study. So the container would have to be part probably of a related district grant to work on that, but that's a potential. Rotary certainly can help with connecting to electricity. We know a lot about creating water pumps and toilet facilities. We have a lot of experts who are very active, including some in West Africa that are doing a lot of work in that area. But one of the biggest questions is, for a global grant, we need a Rotary Club in country to be excited about it and to work with us on it, to take over some of the leadership of it. And I think Harry has made contact with 1 or 2 clubs there. How many more there are is an important question. Have you had any success, Harry?
Yeah, so our team in Liberia had their first acquaintance meeting on the Monday. There is a Rotary Club in the Oro and Painesville area. So they had their first acquaintance meeting. And the next step is for them to make a visit to the site where the container is located. And that is being worked out as we speak.
You know, if I could jump in here for a second, Rick, when you're talking about first steps, there does need to be a host in-country club, but all global grants are done on the club level. And that would be true here in District 6710 as well. And so what I'd say to you, Harry and Brian, the fire that needs to be lit, and you did a great job today, but we need a club. We need a club in our district who will want to carry the water with you in order to figure out how to involve not only the Rotarians in that area, but perhaps other Rotarians in District 6710 if we need additional money. And I'm going to put some people on the spot, but there's there's clubs, Brian, really close to where you are. And some of those faces are on this screen, but clearly Hopkinsville and Madisonville, and actually you all know geography better than I do. Katie's, I mean,
Muhlenberg County.
there not only are there clubs there, but there are great Interact clubs, which are all high school based clubs in Katie's and Hopkinsville and Madisonville and Princeton.
Dawson Springs.
Yeah, right. Actually, all the tornado clubs, those clubs have great Interact clubs that I think would love to hear about what you all are doing, because that's how you light the fire. Nothing happens on a district level first. It happens at the club level first. And so, and some of us would be happy to brainstorm with you about where those clubs are. But one of the best guys to do it on this screen is Dale Leatherman, our district governor, who happens to be from Hopkinsville.
And our
I thought you
district
were-
governor-elect from just to the north in Henderson.
Yeah.
And Dorsey Ridley from Henderson. Let's just say that area is ripe for this seed to be planted. It really is. It's an exciting project. Here in the Louisville area, our Interact clubs are working to do community gardens. It's Interact clubs from Jefferson County and Oldham County working together. And I heard one of you talking about this, but this is the kind of stuff that will get kids excited because they get their hands dirty doing it. So I'm glad that you came. Harry, actually, I'm going to give you a shout out because you and I were the ones that talked originally. I think you sent your original email to me because the bridge kids here in Louisville are people from there know you too as well. But if we're talking about Rotary getting involved, and it's possible that the Downtown Club or the Prospect Goshen Club, and there's all kinds of clubs on the screen from the Louisville area. But
and Denise Sears from SOS happens to be an active member of the Downtown Louisville Club.
Right. But I bet Denise would be happy to work with Hopkinsville or Madison or Henderson or any of those clubs, which it seems to me, Brian, you are a huge part of this. And you're in Hopkins County, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So
I'll get with Brian. He and I will have a conversation, right? And then Harry and I can have a conversation about, because we need participation, in Liberia. And then I'll call Rick or Susan or Joanne, because you all know a whole lot more about this than I do. I'll do what I know how to do. And then I'll come to you and you can tell me what the next step is. But
We can work with some of the peculiarities of Rotary's grant process and deal with that.
Right.
Yeah, I hate to cut this discussion off. I think it is very exciting, but we're very close to reaching the end of our hour. And it has been absolutely full. And I hope with the ideas that we can spread across our district to many of the different clubs, from Clinton and Paducah and to Frankfurt and Scottsville, all across. There's a lot we can do and a lot you can do with your local students. Thank everybody for participating. Thank you particularly Brian and Denise and Shonda and Harry for helping light the spark. We may not have the kindling to get the fire going. That's going to have to be done at the club level, but we can certainly light the spark. And I hope that's what's going on.
Yeah.
So thank everybody for your participation. It is time to
Thank
stop
you
the
so
recording.
much.
Thanks,
Happy
Rick.
World
Thanks, everyone.
Understanding Month.
Thank you.